Hi, my name is Greg Moore, and I want to speak to you today about family business culture, and more specifically, what business culture is like within a family context. According to Dictionary.com, mom and pop shops are small retail businesses usually owned and operated by members of a family. This definition describes my family's small business of picture framing very well. My dad is the business sole proprietor, owner, business manager, consultant, designer, salesperson, frame mat, and glass cutter. My mom does the bookkeeping. My brother assists with deliveries, and I work part-time building frames, cleaning glass, and doing final assembly of the framing projects. Unlike most jobs where we have to conform to certain business norms and standards such as reporting to work at a specified time and wearing business clothing, the business culture in our family business is completely different. I can wear what I want to wear: t-shirt, shorts, flip-flops, tennis shoes. I can listen to music while I'm working, and I have flexible work hours. So for me, it can be a very relaxed working environment. Like many of today's high-tech and top 100 places to work kind of businesses, I get free coffee, sodas, snacks, and meals at no cost to me during working hours. Needless to say, I really enjoy these benefits. What comes to mind when you think of picture framing? For me, it brings memories of special events, places I've traveled, pictures of family members, artwork, my wife's cross-stitch needlepoint, and so on. We have several of those on the walls. I have pictures framed of family members, places that are important to our family. Framing is displayed on the walls of our home, enabling us to look at these framed pictures often to be reminded of places and events and people that are important to us. I'm sure most of you have had a picture framed or at least purchased a frame for a photograph or painting that you wanted to display in your home for similar reasons. Why else should pictures be framed? My answer: to preserve them. I have several framed pictures here of families. This is my wife's great-grandmother. This is my grandmother, preserved for memories, for keepsakes. I'll show you some more later on. In addition to describing family business culture, I want to explain to you the importance of properly framing art and photographs to protect and preserve them. Before I do that, let me briefly explain the history of picture framing. According to Paul Mitchell in his article titled "A Brief History of the Frame," frames evolved from the borders which appeared 3,000 to 4,000 years ago on vase and tomb paintings, and later on mosaics, enclosing narrative scenes and decorative panels. Early Christian art adapted these to carved edgings of ivory book covers and diptychs and altarpieces. By this time, the function of the frame had changed. Not merely a decorative boundary, it protected and emphasized the work it held. As I'm sure you will all agree, picture framing has been around a long time, but instead of framing pictures for cathedrals and castles, we frame our own treasures. I became involved in picture framing as a teenager when my dad, an artist, started to frame his own drawings and paintings. He hired me one summer to build about 100 small picture frames for him. Let me start by showing you some basic materials required to frame a picture. Those would include matting, moldings like these, pieces of molding, sections of molding, and then you have glass that goes on top of that. There's glass on the front of this piece here, and then you have a backing paper that goes on the back of that, and you have screw eyes, wire, and other pieces that assemble the unit as one unit. Next, let's look at the terminology and the lingo found in today's picture framing business. According to Larson Jewell's website, Glossary and Terms webpage, they quote, and I quote them, "Most industries have their own unique language. The art and custom framing industry is no exception." I have captured a few of my own terms as well. Obviously, the first term to begin with is the frame, which is simply the 4 pieces of molding assembled to make a frame, and this is called molding when it comes in a stick length. Inside of frames you can have liners, so another frame can go inside a frame if it fits correctly, and this inner frame is called a liner. This is the lip here. This is obviously called molding. This is called a rabbet here because it's the way you route it out, and there's a rabbet depth and width. And a shadow box frame is this kind of frame right here where you have a picture mounted inside a box, and it's called a shadow box because it's a deep frame. You have matting, and matting to preserve the art, you really want to use acid-free mat or rag mat. Rag mat is made out of cotton fibers, and it's recommended to preserve art. You have, of course, you have the single mat. You have double matting where it's a second mat and a triple mat, and you have fabric mats that are actually fabric on top of the paper, and you have French type of mats with extra watercolor lines that are painted on the mat. You have glass that you place on top of here that could either be plexiglass, acrylic, or regular glass, or conservation glass, which is used to block out ultraviolet rays, and also even better than that is museum glass, which blocks out the ultraviolet light, and it also reduces reflection. One of the general art and framing terms that was new to me last December is Giclée. According to ligclay.com, Giclée is the highest quality ink jet archival printing technique with digital reproduction of fine art. Giclée prints are museum quality, lasting 200 years. Giclée can be printed on canvas or watercolor paper. A popular method used to produce fine art prints. These two examples of Giclée prints of watercolors my dad gave me as presents this past Christmas. The first is his Bethesda, Maryland home, and the second is a Maine lobster shack that originally was painted in 1959. In either case, Giclée prints are identical to the original art, as well as being very special to me. My understanding is that Giclée techniques have only been in existence for 12 years. Hang on. This is his Bethesda home I was talking about. It's a Giclée print. And this is the Maine lobster shack. Thought you'd like to see that. Now that I've described basic framing materials and terminology, let's overview the steps required to make a picture frame, or to frame a picture. In rapid-fire fashion, I will rattle off the steps required to frame a picture. Due to time constraints, however, I will not explain any of the steps at this point because I'm going to probably be way over on this presentation. 15-20 steps. Measure the art, mount the art, mat the art, cut the frame, build the frame, putty the frame, measure and cut the glass, clean the glass, assemble the art in the frame, apply double stick tape to the back of the frame molding, apply the paper to the frame, trim away the excess, add the screw eyes, the brackets, stretch the wire, cut the wire, wrap the wire. That's it. That was quick enough, wasn't it? One of my favorite parts of framing is building the frame, since I can daydream and think about other things while I'm building. You do need to pay attention when you're doing it, however, if you desire to maintain a quality finished product. I have an example of a framing vise here, and this is how you do it. You put the frames in here, you line them up, put some glue in there, drill some nail holes in here, and simply hammer them together. You let that sit for about a half hour or so until they're ready to build into the other two sides. In conclusion, picture framing has a long history of complementing, displaying, and preserving art around the globe. Frames initially were works of art themselves, as is the case of large gold and ornate variety frames found in castles, cathedrals, and museums. Modern framing techniques incorporate materials specifically designed to preserve art, and our family business introduced me to picture framing. Not only did it become a hobby and a way for me to make money, but more importantly, I've learned lessons about art, architecture, and art preservation as well. In summary, family business culture tends to be more relaxed and for me, a more productive and creative work environment. All cultures have specific terminology and slang. The picture framing business is no exception. For me, picture framing is much more than simply framing a picture. Picture framing preserves important memories of events, people, places in our lives for future generations. Are there any questions?